Good evening. Melissa Johnson here for episode 29 of Melissa Loves to Talk. Today is January 17th, 2026. Um, Today is going to be about District 14th in Georgia's GRA meeting. We had to meet so we could vote on who we were going to endorse to run for Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. Everyone knows what happened. I will refresh you just in case you don't. She dropped us like a hot potato and left us without our seat filled. So right now, her seat sits empty on the House floor and means our district has no representation right now. So right now, we're left without representation, which is technically unconstitutional. So here we are having a special election to fill this seat. Now, lots of things happen, which didn't know all this. I'm literally learning all this stuff, which is awesome for me because I love to learn new things about politics. So, we could not do anything until she actually left the seat on January 5th. And that gave us 66 days to have a special election, which we have to campaign, have a special election, a primary, and then have a general election, which I think it's 2 or 3 weeks after that. So the primary is March 10th, and I'm not positive if it's 2 or 3 weeks, and then it'll be the general. So again, campaign like psychos, spend a whole bunch of money that Georgia doesn't have to fill a seat that is vacated right now. So we had a nice red cushy seat in the 14th district, which again, I know is the reddest part of Georgia, but apparently it is one of the most conservative areas in the country. Just learned that today. So that is why everyone is trying to really come against that seat. We have 2 Democrats running, which is typical. They usually only have one. It's shocking that they have 2 because, they stick together and they vote for their person. The Republicans, let me tell you about the Republicans. We have 17 fighting over one seat. And if you know the Georgia rules, you have to get 50% of the vote to move on. So, for instance, if both Democrats would get, well, no, that doesn't make sense. Okay. Someone told me the wrong thing. I just thought in my brain that's not correct. Okay. So what would happen is whatever Democrat got 50%, they would move on. If neither one of them got 50%, there would be a runoff and they would both go again to the runoff. Okay. Which most likely one of them will get 50% and they'll go forward. But, which this will not happen. And I just thought of that because somebody said, oh, both Democrats could go forward and no Republican. And I was like, that's not going to happen. I just thought this in my brain just now as I'm saying it, that wouldn't happen because both Democrats are not going to get more votes than a Republican. The only scary part of it is that because there's 17 people splitting the vote, that we would have a runoff. And then, which most likely will have a runoff, which with that many people, I mean, we've had a runoff with 2 people in the general. So it happens. But that is, we'll have a runoff. So then we'll have a runoff in between the general. So then we'll pretty much have an election, the next week an election, the next week election is pretty much how it will go if we have to have a runoff. So this is what the Republicans do. They sabotage their own party. Instead of thinking strategically as, hey, let's just let two people run for this seat to be guaranteed to beat the Democrat because they know they have to have 50% of the vote to win. So, okay, we'll say I'm endorsing Colton Moore. I've said that plenty of times. So say him and somebody else makes it, it's a runoff. Okay. So we're already paying for 2 special elections, and that would make 3. So we're spending millions of dollars, millions, to have these elections that we would not have to have if Marjorie just would have at least just finished her term, because then she just wouldn't have ran. That's fine. I wouldn't respect that she said, oh, I don't want to run again. I respect that. Hey, don't make it a career, because really what she did technically is the way they're supposed to do it. Hey, run 2 terms, run 4 terms, because you only get 2 years. So realistically, if she would have ran 4 terms, that's really all they should have. What's that? That's 8 years. That's good. 8 years. Anyway, so if she would have just said, hey, I'm not running again, then May we would have had a primary. It was already scheduled because we have lots of stuff going on in May, the rest of the primaries. And we would have been fine with that. Now, mind you, we still probably would have had 17 people, but it wouldn't be so dire where right now we don't have a person filling that seat. And honestly, Marjorie's been a certain type of way right now, but I feel like, was keeping the Republicans a little bit more in line than what they are right now, because we had 81 just vote with the Democrats, and that wasn't happening when she was in there. So I will say at least she was kind of keeping them more, what is the word I'm looking for? Accountable. Where right now I feel like they're kind of rogue right now, because I think right now they're just a mess. So I will say that I think that she was kind of keeping them a little bit more accountable, and they were voting for their party, where right now they're voting against us. So FYI, vote them out in the primary. So, but right now we have 17 people, and we have to get 50% to get one of them to go to the general. And with 17 people, it's going to be really hard for them to get 50% of the vote with 2 Democrats. It's going to be hard. Like if both Democrat, well, they won't. I don't know what I'm thinking. Either way, if one of them gets 50% of the vote, they'll go to the general, and then whoever don't get 50%, which they probably won't, I don't know. I don't really know how to predict it. We've never had 17 before. It's just absurd. Normally we have like 5, 6. That's typical. Everybody used to run against Marjorie. Marjorie blew them out of the water all the time. But I feel like this is just so many people that it hurts us so bad. And I get everybody wants to get out there. They want a name for themselves. Hey, they probably think they can do some insider trading and make $30 million. I'm not really sure. But right now it's just a mess trying to fight over that one seat when they could have just waited. There's going to be another primary. This seat is going to be right back up for grabs. It's literally a temporary seat. So Colton's going to be in there, hopefully. I'm calling into existence right now. So Colton will be in there for a minimal time. He's going to have to primary. So this is the fun that's going on right now. So the process of what we did today was we went there. They had a debate, which it wasn't really debatey. I know that's not a word, but they didn't really debate as more as no one yelled and screamed at each other. Nobody talked over each other. Everybody was respectful. So I guess that was good. The guy that was keeping time, he said he keeps time a lot at other debates and stuff, and everybody tries to keep going over their time. But the people there were very respectful of the time. He'd put up his little star, and everybody would hurry up and try to wrap up instead of acting like they didn't see. So they all stayed pretty much, in line. Nobody was yelling and screaming over each other. They didn't even try to really put each other down. They did say, well, I have more experience because of this. I have more experience because of that. Of course, you're going to do that. You got to plead your case. So for that was kind of good because they weren't really taking licks at each other. They were just, hey, I have experience because of this. Like I said, Colton is in the state Senate right now, which now I guess he's not in there anymore. So now his seat's empty. So now we don't have representative in his seat because we have to have an election for his seat, which not sure how that's working. I think his seat's, I guess, just going to be vacant because I haven't heard anything about the election for that. So I guess I'll hear something real soon about that. But so it was nice. It wasn't like the ones, we see on TV where everybody's yelling and screaming at each other, talking over each other. It was not like that. I was kind of expecting that, but they weren't. They just, we had a couple questions and people could give questions. So people were, filling out questions. They took all the questions. They looked at the questions. Some of the questions were, close to each other. So they asked the questions that were relative to each other and try to summarize it and answer more questions, 3 questions in one. Everyone went around. There was, I think, 8 of them there, 7 or 8, and they all went around. They answered the questions. Nobody, again, like I said, wasn't really taking digs at each other. They just were I'm better for the job because of this. Some of them, I felt like you could kind of tell they were lying or they were trying to suck up, which is their job. I get, you want to kind of suck up for our vote. But you could clearly see who was going to end up getting the vote because everybody was cheering for Colton. Again, we all know him. We know what he's going to do. He's in the state Senate. Like he said in the debate, he said, I'm the only one that was ever unconstitutionally arrested for trying to stand up for my district. That's all he was doing. He just wanted to vote. So we know, he's the ones that got them to start doing, the roll, just like Marjorie did in the House. He did that. He did a lot of things, which they're supposed to be making a little video with the bullet points so I can use it. Because we asked if we could get a video just so I was like, so I can promote it. I don't know how many watch this that are in my district. All the people that were there, some of them didn't even know that I had a podcast. I told everybody that was there that I have a podcast. But of course they were there, but still some people even that were there probably doesn't know everything that Colton's done the last 2 terms that he's been in the state Senate. He was also in the House, the state House first, and then he went to the Senate. So he's been, a representative for Georgia in Georgia for quite a few years. And I mean, he's always stood up for Georgia. So I don't see why he wouldn't stand up for everyone. He is very, very conservative. And that is what he does. He is fighting for conservative values. Like and that's what I want. I want someone in Congress that fights for conservative values, because they don't. They bow down to, I mean, look at how many people keep voting for all the crazy stuff. Men and women's sports. Why are people in our party still voting for that? I think 2 people. I may be wrong. Don't quote me. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure I think 2 of our people voted for men and women's sports. I may be thinking of a different vote. I know they had a vote yesterday on a bill, and I know 2 of the Democrats voted with us, which I was kind of surprised. So I may be getting it confused, but I mean, they're trying to spend our money. The Republicans are voting for that. That's against our values. Okay. We don't want to spend money. Okay. We want to conserve money. We don't want to be poor with our money. We want to be good stewards. So that's voting against conservative values. So I really don't know what's going on right now in the House. I mean, if they think they're going to win the midterms by voting with the Democrats, I mean, I don't even know why they would do that. Like, you're going to get primaried. You're not even going to make it anywhere. You're going to get kicked out in the primary because you're voting against your party. You're voting against your constituents. You're voting against Trump. That's who we voted for. We want his policies to be put through. He won the popular vote. He won all the swing states, which means we want his policies to be passed. If you're voting against that, you're going to be primaried. I mean, just what would they say? Read the room. Read the room. You're not doing that. You're voting with the Democrats for what I don't know. I mean, if somebody has an idea on what their strategic thing that's going on, to me, they're either getting paid, they're getting threatened, or they just don't care at this point. They're like, I'm tired of fighting. I'll just get a paycheck and let the Democrats do everything. We didn't vote them in there for that. I didn't. I voted them in to be fighting for me. I'm out here fighting to get them elected. I mean, I door knock, I put out signs. Right now I'm doing this. I didn't do this before, but I mean, the people that I'm going to endorse for the primaries, when they win, they need to be getting in there fighting for me. I'm fighting for them. All of us do something to fight to get them in there. Even if it's tell your family to vote. Hey, you did something for them, which means you pushed to get them voted in there, and they need to be working for the vote. They work for us. I think they forget that. I think they forget they work for us. I think they work for a check. No, you work for us. You do what we tell you to do. And that's the way the government's supposed to function. We the people, for the people. Of the people, by the people. It's all the people. So they're talking about another government shutdown. Trump, if anyone's listening to this that's on your staff, please shut the government down. Trump, go in there and fix everything while they're out of session. Don't do what we did last time. Oh, y'all shut the government down? I'm in control now. That's what Trump needs to do. Y'all don't want a dictator, but we need a dictator. Because he actually works for the people. He cares about what we want. That's why everybody hates him. All the politicians hate him. Everybody hates Trump, TDS, because he works for the people you should be working for. That's what you get elected to do, work for us. I don't know why all of a sudden, the last, 30 years, we haven't had anybody working for us. They're working for themselves. They're working for Big Pharma. They're working for China. They're working for Ukraine. They're working for, I guess, the Jews that everybody says. All these things, except for the American people, the people they're supposed to be working for, people they're supposed to care about. Because the Democrats stick together for their party, but they aren't working for their party either. They're not working for their people either. They're working for whatever benefits them. Really realized how dark I am with this hat on. I wanted to have my hat on, but like my whole face is blacked out. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I just think we need to be praying. Like literally that's all there is to do, because other than that, I don't see how we're fixing anything. I mean, today just proved a lot. You know, that was just one little district in Georgia. So I imagine that it's like this in every city and every district in the country. Like like I said, we've never had this problem. I mean, I have not been thrown really into politics, but I've been in Georgia since 2015, and I don't remember ever seeing a whole bunch of people on the ballot like that, where I had to think about. Like 2016 was my first time voting in Georgia, and I don't remember it being 15 different people that I had to try to decide who I wanted to vote for. I mean, it's just crazy. Like, why would you want to split the vote like that? Like, common sense says, let's do, like, yes, you want to have different ideas. You want to have people. Like I said, 5 people, it's a primary. So I get it. You might have 5 or 6 people, and you're like, okay, well, 5 or 6 people, we just are all going to vote for this, it's going to be split a little bit. But like I said, you have to have 50% of the vote. So I don't really don't know how it's going to turn out. It's going to be very, very hard to get out and door knock and do signs and make phone calls and all that stuff. Number one, we have less than 2 months. March 10th. So we have a little bit of time to do a lot of work, which again, that's fine. I don't work full time, so I can do a lot. I told them I'll door knock, I'll put out signs, I'll do what I have to do. And just get it done, I guess. Because that seat has a lot of pull. Because it's been a red seat for a while. And I have to say, I know Marjorie did a lot of stuff right now. I'm not sure what's going on with her, but she did a lot for us while she was in that seat. She really did. She fought for Northwest Georgia, and she fought for Americans. She really did. For 5 years, she was in that seat, and she really fought hard. So it's going to be hard to get someone in that seat. And we're going to work really hard for it, because it's not as easy as it was when she ran for it. Because now I'm assuming, I guess, the party's just so crazy right now. I'm not going to say divide it because I don't think the parties divide it. I really don't. I know there's people that's, what do we call butthurt? I know people are disappointed in certain things because they think we live in a microwave society and everything gets done in 5 minutes. But if you're a realist, it's not how it works. Things take time. The things that could get fixed right away got fixed right away. Things that take time are taking time. People are disappointed about the Epstein files. The Epstein files. What do they expect to get? Names? There's not a list of all the pedophiles that went to Epstein Island just sitting somewhere. They're not that stupid. Yes, there's names in the files. Yes, they did redact a lot of names. Yes, they hid a lot of things. But they released over 1 million files. So I don't know what people are disappointed about. People getting arrested. I said this last night. What is the point of arresting people when we have these judges, these lefty Lulus that are not going to do anything? They're just going to let them out. So then we waste our tax dollars arresting people that's just getting out. And then they'll run and hide. So it's like, people, be realistic. Like, yes, we want them to pay, but guess what? Everyone gets judgment. They're not going to get away with what they're going to do, what they did. No one gets away with anything. People just think they get away with it. And that's my feeling about it is, okay, they didn't do time. They didn't get the death penalty, but they're going to get judged for that. They got to answer to God. And believe me, that's worse than being in jail for 30 years. So when people are like, oh, I'm disappointed with the Epstein files. Again, I didn't vote for Trump for the Epstein files. I'm sorry if you did, and I'm sorry that you think I'm mean, but I never thought in a million years that we would get names and we would get arrested. I'm going to be honest. I really just never did. Like I said, no one gets away with anything. And that's what I know. So that's why I'm not worried about it. We're all like, oh, they're not getting arrested. They're getting away with it. They're disgusting pedophiles. These women need justice. Again, number one, we're not the judge. And everyone pays for what they do. They're not getting away with anything. Not one bit. I can guarantee you it. They are not. Read some verses in the Bible. They are not getting away with anything. And if you are a conservative, you believe that. These conservatives that are saying, oh, they're getting away with it. Trump doesn't care. This is not what I voted for. I guess you don't believe in the Bible and you don't believe that no one gets away with stuff. That God's the judge and he will judge them. So that's not what my focus is on. My focus is on we need to be getting the illegals out. That is my number one thing. Because the economy is never going to get better as long as these people are stealing our money. Trump can put in all these policies. He can do all this stuff. But all this free money that just keeps going out the door, it keeps our inflation up and it keeps our prices up. So the illegals, number one, we need to be getting more out. What we've got last year is not enough. We need more. Okay. 2.6 million. It's not enough. They let in like 30 million. So 2.6 in a year is not enough. We need to be jacking it up. So the illegals need to be gone. And then Sorry, I'm having like a too much stuff's running through my head at one time. Election integrity, which again, we can override the election integrity. Like, we can win if they don't fix anything, because they're not going to be able to fix anything by the midterms. Honestly, it may be fixed by 2028, but by the midterms, it's not going to be fixed. In some areas, it will. It will. The ones that are very intentional on fixing the voter integrity, they will. Like Florida, their stuff will be running. It always runs like a well-oiled machine. So they'll have their stuff fixed. And a couple other states that are really about it, but most places are not going to have it fixed by November. They're not. So we need to get out and vote. That's what it comes down to. Like Trump said, too big to rig. That's what we did in 24. And that's what we got to do in 26. If everybody shows up and votes, they can't cheat, because there was cheating in 2024. But because everybody showed up and voted, they couldn't cheat enough. Because in 2020, the reason why they got away with cheating is because they just kept getting more votes, because they knew how many they needed. That's why it kept changing. Like, they just kept pulling votes out from underneath the table. The boxes that they had of mail-in ballots, they just kept finding votes because they knew how many they needed. If you make it overwhelming where they can't figure out how many they need, like we did in 2024, they can't get away with cheating. It won't matter. They can cheat, but it won't matter. So that's all we got to worry about. Like, yes, we need ID. We need people that are legally here voting. I agree with all that. So if we could fix that, great. Which we could probably fix that by November. It's very easy to say everyone has to have a valid ID in English. And sorry, let me get a water. Even if they want it to be like, okay, well, you have to have proof of residence. I didn't have it on my head all the way and it fell off. So if they wanted to do, okay, well, you got to have proof of residence and your ID, or an ID and your birth certificate. I mean, that's easy to implement by November. That's very easy to implement by November. You just say, sign an executive order, and everybody has to have ID and a birth certificate to vote. Now, the only thing with a birth certificate is if you're a naturalized citizen, you'll still have a foreign birth certificate. So birth certificate wouldn't matter. But at least if we could do ID, you have to have a valid ID that's in English. I mean, I assume all IDs are in English, but I don't know what these blue states do. I mean, I know where my parents vote, you don't even have to have an ID. They just walk in and they vote. So at least if you're like, okay, everyone has to have an ID, that at least proves who you are and that you're legally supposed to vote. Because I'm going to tell you the way we do it here. You have to show them your ID. They scan your ID into the system. So then you pop up inside the system, and then they know your picture is who you are, and everything pops up and generates your address, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what it shows on the screen. I can't see the screen, but I know they scan your ID and it pops up and they'll say whatever. Okay, thank you, Miss Johnson, for voting, blah, 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 blah. And they give you your little stylus so you can vote on the screen and your card. And I know, at least where I live, you vote on the screen, it prints out a paper so you can see exactly who you voted for. And then once you say, yes, this is who I want to vote for, then you take it over and you feed it in a machine. So they aren't changing when you're voting because you can see the paper. Again, not sure what happens in the other procedure on the other side, but I mean, I would say where I live has probably the least amount of fraud. I'm not going to say no fraud, but probably the least amount. Because again, they're asking for ID. You do vote on the machine, but it does print out your paper that shows who you voted for. Again, once you feed into the machine, I don't know if the machine that you're feeding it to can change it. I don't know. It's a piece of paper. So I don't really think so. But again, I don't know. I don't know what happens in that process. So anyway. But yeah, so I went on a tangent about the election in general, which is fine. This is all related to what I said I wanted to talk about. So 14th district, like I said, this is the US House seat that Marjorie Taylor Greene was in. She left and left her seat wide open. Right now, it's just sitting there empty. And we now have to get someone to fill her seat, which Colton Moore is the person that the GRA endorsed, which is, a pretty big deal because, well, really I feel like any endorsement is a big deal. So we'll see what happens with that. And we'll see who else endorses them. We're hoping because we endorsed them, maybe some other people endorse them because they'll see, okay, well, they got endorsed by the GRA, so maybe he's legit, so we'll pick up and endorse him also. We'll see. Like they said, they don't win because of endorsements. They win because of us, which is true. Like, we have to vote. Our vote is what matters. So if you're in my district, I'm just going to say, Colton Moore, I get like some people don't want to vote for him because he's already been in politics per se, they're like, oh, we don't want somebody else that's already been in there, blah, 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 blah. But you can look up his voting record. You can see that he is fighting against the establishment. And that's what he does. So it's not, he's a politician. I mean, you can see how much people raise for their campaign. That's also all public knowledge. If you Google it, you can see how much people have been endorsed, how much money they get. Anybody in the House, in the U.S. House, the U.S. Senate, you can look up and see how much money they get from donors. And so you can tell he's not paid for. He's literally, I said this last week, we had a little fundraiser, and it was about maybe 30, 40 people. And it was just people like me. There was no rich people there. Well, the one guy, I think he might be rich, but I'm not sure. Everybody was just hardworking Americans like me. They weren't dressed up. They just looked like everyday people. It was very fancy for what it was. They put nice tablecloths down and put lights. And I was like, oh, I feel like I should have been dressed better. And everybody kind of was dressed like that. They're wearing jeans and a nice shirt. I just had on patriotic stuff because that's what I wear to everything. And I was like, oh, I am not dressed up enough for this. But it wasn't like that. Everybody was just down to earth people. It was just everyday people. And he could have tried to get, rich donors and all this stuff, but that's not what he does. And I mean, we know that's what Marjorie did. I mean, she said it all the time. She's like, "Oh, I'm making all my money dollar at a time." And that's what we want. We want people that are grassroots and people that care about us because they get affected. You know, these politicians that are up in there in DC, they aren't affected by these policies. That's why they vote for them. They don't care. You know, the ones that are affected vote against them, like Tim Burchett. Okay. He is the man. I'm just going to say he is the man. I wish I could vote for him. He's the man. He gives them a run for their money. He's not bought and paid for. He's an everyday person like us, and he fights them tooth and nail. You know, Lauren Bobart, she does the same thing. She fights him and fights him and fights him. I know her first name's Kat. I cannot remember her last name, but she fights for us too. Sorry, I'm just so bad with names. I know her name's Kat. I can't remember her last name, but she's from Florida. And she fights for us too. She's, you know, yelling and screaming. She's, you know, telling them she's not passing that. You know, you can tell the people that are affected by these policies, the ones that don't have millions in it inside straight trading. You know, they're everyday working people. You know, in the Senate, we have a couple fighters in the Senate that are constantly fighting for us. And then you have the ones that, you know, they're bought and paid for. Rand Paul. You know, yes, he votes with us sometimes. He has his reasons, I guess. And some of the reasons he gives, okay, they're legit reasons. Some of them are. I'll give it to him. But some of them I'm like, why didn't you just vote for that? Like, it was pointless. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting this year. I'm excited, nervous at the same time. Probably everyone that knows what's going on, like really knows what's going on, follows the real stuff, is probably a little nervous. But I know God has this. God's in control. God's going to do what God's going to do. And I know it's not up to us. All we can do is what we're supposed to do. Pray, 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 vote, vote, vote. That's all we can really do. I mean, there's not much else we can do. I mean, I'm doing this on my podcast. I can make videos. I can, you know, campaign. I can, you know, stand on the side of the road with my signs. I can door knock. I can put out signs. I can make phone calls, which I'm probably not going to do. I'm not much of a talk on the phone person. So I'm not real into that. But I don't know. Not much else we can do, but I'm going to do something. You know, I can't sit back and just let these people just take over the country. I have children. One day I'll have grandchildren. And I care about their futures. So that's why I do this. I do this for that. Is I want my kids to be able to get married, afford a house, afford to have children. Right now, they can't. And it's not all President Trump's fault. I know everybody wants to blame him for everything, but he can't get out of a hole that fast. The hole's so deep that it's very hard to dig out of. Not unless someone throws a ladder down with a whole bunch of money to dig us out. I mean, it's very crazy right now. And with all the fraud, that's what's hurting us. I mean, the more fraud that gets exposed, it just reveals how much money has been wasted and why the economy is so bad. They're stealing our tax dollars, which means our tax dollars are not going to what they're supposed to, which hurts the economy. So there's just so many factors. It's crazy when you look up how many factors affects the economy. It's just mind blowing. Like people just want to bring up two things, and it's so many things that affect it. You know, like I said, the illegals that want to keep, you know, getting all the free stuff. And they keep getting all the free stuff. That takes our tax dollars. So now our tax dollars aren't going to stuff that it should go to. So all these things factor into why the economy's the way it is. It's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of things. It's, you know, right now we don't have enough houses because of the illegals taking the houses. So then the houses go up because supply and demand. That's how supply and demand works. Okay, well, 5 people want this one house. So we need them to keep bidding higher, and the highest person wins because 5 people want one house because there's not enough houses. If no one knows about economy, economics. That's how supply and demand works. Is okay, there's not enough supply to meet the demand, so we can raise the price and these people can fight over it. So that's why we want the demand and the supply to be even. That's why all these houses are being built, to try to fix the supply and demand unbalance. I know, like me, at first I was like, oh, all these new houses, all these people, it's going to get crowded. I moved out of Baltimore to get away from the crowd, to get away from all the people, all the chaos. But as I'm doing research, I'm like, oh, we need these houses right now because there's so much demand and no supply. Like I said yesterday or the other day, the houses that are being built in North Georgia, they're brand new houses and they're pretty big. I've seen the first one completely built. Upper 200,000s is not that bad. Like, to me, it's crazy to think a house is that much money, but compared to some of the houses in Chattanooga, that's a good size house for upper 200,000s. And it's a brand spanking new house. They're building it. So hopefully these houses getting built, and I saw some in Chattanooga the other day when I drove, there was some houses being built. So I'm like, maybe that'll lower the pricing down of houses in Chattanooga, because in Chattanooga houses are so expensive. It's crazy. I'm like, when we first moved here, you know, in Baltimore, it was expensive. So that's why we moved down here. Not the only reason, one of the reasons. Like, I lived up there. The house that I lived in was not the greatest neighborhood. It wasn't real bad. Okay. But it wasn't the greatest, you know, it was okay. Okay. The street we lived on was okay. But you know how it's the same neighborhood, but the further you go into the neighborhood, the worse it gets. That's kind of how it was there. Okay. We lived on the ABC streets. Okay. We lived on C. Okay. So right there was pretty nice. The farther you get down, the worse it got because it's down into like a dead end. So like it's just a community, it goes all the way down, and then it's a dead end to what was that technically down there? It was like a, not a pond, but something like that. Okay. So it was just dead end to a body of water. So you get farther down, closer to the water, it was kind of drug infested. Where we lived, it wasn't that bad. Okay. So that's the concept of it. So it wasn't that bad of a neighborhood. But in 2012, because we moved down here in 2012. So my house I was living in was 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, and it was $975 a month. So not awful. Cheap now. That would be great right now. That would be awesome. Back then it was a little high, and I was a single mom and I was paying the bills by myself. Because my husband and I were together, but we weren't married. So I was paying the bills, and because it was my house. And so not awful up there. Right then it was getting kind of expensive. We just happened to get that place right before they raised the rent or whatever. And so when we moved down here, we had an apartment, and it was right by our church. It was in Eastridge. If anybody knows the area, it was still in Eastridge. And we had 2 bedrooms and 1.5 bath. It was a apartment, and it was 700 something. I think 750, maybe 700. I don't remember. It was cheaper than my house in Maryland, but it was a little bit smaller. It was 1 bedroom smaller. But it was a little bit cheaper. No, I think it was not even 700. I don't think it was 700. I think it was 675 or something like that. So $300 cheaper, but it was 1 less bedroom. Okay. So not really. It was actually a lot cheaper if you want to take into account $300 cheaper. If you want to take, so it was a lot cheaper to live here than live there. Okay. Now, mind you, when we moved here with nothing, didn't have jobs. We just picked up and moved here. So we got what we could get. Okay. So those same apartments right now are like $1,200 or $1,400. I can't remember. I think someone just told me about that. I think it was 12 or 14. When we moved in there, they were $675. So that just goes to show. Now, mind you, it's been 14 years, but that's how much stuff's went up since we've lived here. But again, still a lot cheaper than Maryland. If people are from another northern state and they move south, it's expensive here, but a lot less expensive. So that's the way I kind of like consider it. It's like, okay, like I said, that brand new house that's being built is upper 200,000s. My parents live in a rancher. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. It has a basement. One of the bathrooms are in the basement. Okay. It's just a regular size house. I don't know, maybe 1,200 square feet, maybe 1,500 square feet. I don't know. It's just an average house. Okay. And of course, it's paid off. They don't owe anything on it. But I think they said that the house across the street, which is probably about the same house, and it sold for like $325,000. And that's just a regular small house. This one in Georgia was probably double that size. Brand spanking new. So if that takes any consideration of the difference with how supply and demand work, is okay, there's not that many houses up there because there's so many people. Okay. There's so many people up there. There's not enough houses. So, hey, we can jack the price up of the houses. So for all the people that are like, oh, why are houses so high? That's one of the reasons. I'm not saying it's the only reason because, again, there's so many other factors. But a lot of people, again, want to blame one thing and not look at all the reasons and everything that affect it. Again, oil, how much you pay for gas affects everything. So that is another reason why a lot of stuff went up. I said that yesterday on my podcast was if the oil goes up, everything goes up. because it costs more to transport stuff. So gas was, I think, $120 a barrel. Now it's 55. So gas went down. Things should start coming down, which is what I'm really hoping, because gas is coming down. Other places is slower than others. Again, that's another thing that's a little different. Is I've seen people, they're paying under $2. Where I live, it's, it depends. Like I said, yesterday I got it for $2.20. Today, I've been driving around. I've seen gas for a little bit higher. There was gas, it was like $2.59, which again, still cheaper than it was last year. If you want to consider, well, not last year, but 2024, because now we're in 2026. So everything takes an account of the economy. Everybody wants to blame one thing. I wish it was just one thing. We could just fix this one thing and the economy would be, bam, fix, everything's cheaper. But it's so many things that affect it. Like I said the other night too, is if a business is charging you $12.50 for a meal and you're paying $12.50, why would they lower their price? It doesn't make sense as a business owner. Again, as us, the consumer, it makes sense to us is the price went down for all your products to make this meal. Why aren't you lowering your prices? But they're looking at it like, well, you already were paying it. Why would I lower my price? I can make now a higher profit because I'm paying $2 less for this meal than I was. So I'm making a $2 profit more than I was. So you have to take in consideration of that. It doesn't matter what the average is for the country, because it matters on each company on what they're going to charge. The average, again, a barrel of gas is $55, and that's for the whole country. So every single person that buys a barrel of gas is paying $55. But what they're charging you to buy their gas is, if it's still the same price, like in California, it's still $6 a gallon. Now they're making a high profit, high, because it's half price of what it was. So now they're making all that profit, where their gas should only be even $2.59, even $3. They'd still be making a profit. So for the people that are just like, I don't understand why things aren't getting cheaper, blah, 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 blah. This is why. Okay. It's so many variables in it. If people would research how the economy works, how things work, what affects prices, again, what role the president plays in it, because they want to blame him for everything. He's not a dictator. He doesn't control everything. Everyone just wants to blame him for everything, and it's not him for everything. Again, he does regulations. He passes stuff. Companies don't have to listen. I mean, they don't. Like I said, gas is $55 a barrel. People still charging the same price when it was $120 a barrel. You can't make people change prices unless you federalize it, and then you're taking people's rights away. It's capitalism. It's a free market. I mean, this is how this country works. So unfortunately, this is a good and a bad system. We want people to be able to start their own business. We want people to profit. We want this, but sometimes it hurts the consumer because the companies get greedy. Instead of, how can I help my customers? It's, how can I help me? And that's the way it ends up happening in America, unfortunately. Well, I'll say anywhere. Anywhere can be like that. The love of money, right? People love money. Money's not bad. The love of money is. So I don't know. This is not what I was going to talk about, but I guess this is where we went. Um, I like to talk about the economy because I'm interested in that. I took a class in college and I don't know why I didn't just make that my major, and because I'm very interested in it. So some of the things I know from that class, which is about this much. Some of the stuff is just because I researched it. Uh, but and then some stuff I have just learned from other people. You know, people show me charts, and that's what I understand. Show me a chart. This is the chart. This is this. This is this. I can understand that, and then it makes sense because it's numbers with things instead of you just trying to explain it to me. So I've seen a lot of different charts and I've seen a lot of different numbers on the economy should be a lot better than it is because the numbers are down. But like I said, companies can make their prices whatever they want. Okay. There's no regulation. There's not a cap. You know, like I said, if you go to McDonald's and they want to charge you $12.50 for a meal, which again, I don't go to McDonald's, I'm making up this number. They can charge you whatever they want. Okay. There's not a regulation on how high they can go for their meals. So, and again, if you were already paying that, why would they lower it? They only lower it when no one's buying it. So then they would have to be, that's why they have specials. So you can tell when business is a little slow because then they'll be like, oh, we're running a special, you know, $9.99 instead of $12.50. Because we're like, oh, we got to get some people to buy. Our sales are down. We don't have as many people coming in. Why do you think grocery stores run deals? Well, that's competitive, mostly why they run deals. But they also know if they run deals, they have more people coming in. So, yes, it's competitive, but it also is some of these things that they're running deals on are probably things that people don't buy a lot. I do Instacart and I notice in Publix, a lot of their deals, some of the things I don't really think they sell that item without a deal. So they're like, okay, well, we haven't sold this item because it's too high. So let's run a deal on it. Like I said, yes, some of it is competitive pricing. I used to work at Aldi. We used to go spy on other companies that were competitive pricing and see how much they were charging for it. And then we would change our price to be competitive with their prices. Of course, they don't do it that way anymore, but that's the way we used to do it. We would go to like Walmart, Dollar General, and we would take pictures of their stuff and then we would change our prices to be lower than theirs. So yes, people do that. But a lot of it is, like I said, some of the stuff is very high in price. So they'll run specials on it because it's something it doesn't sell well because it's high. You know, like most of like sodas. Okay, I don't buy sodas. If I do, it's one here or there. But a case of soda is $10 now for 12 sodas. It's $10, regular price. They don't sell a lot when they're regular price. The ones that are on sale sell out. You can see the shelves. Coke products are on sale. All the Cokes are gone. All the Pepsis are full. Vice versa. So that is a count for it too. Is like I said, if people aren't buying it, they're going to lower the price because people aren't buying it. But if you keep buying it, why would they lower the price? So like people are going to buy it anyway. It doesn't matter what I make the price. You know, like the expensive restaurants, people still go there even if they can't afford it. The steakhouses, the seafood restaurants, people still go there even though it's expensive. So they say expensive. So Again, another thing that keeps the prices high. You know, I mean, just think of it as a business person, not a consumer. Okay. Again, as a consumer, we're like, why are these prices so high? As a business owner, we're making more money. So good for us. So it just depends on the way you look at things. And if you take an account for everything, not just one thing. Why is this so high? Why is this so high? It's so many different factors on why it's high. And prices are coming down. And I'm really hoping that they start coming down more now that we can see. Like, I had a video, I couldn't load it, it wasn't working. I hope maybe by tomorrow I can show the video because it shows all the stuff that's better, which means because it's better, it should be bringing the prices down, you know? So hopefully, like, our inflation's 2.7. It was 9 this time last year. 9%. It's 2.7. That's a big difference right there. So that already should be bringing some prices down because the inflation is relatively low, low. They thought it was going to be 3 and it's actually 2.7. So that should help. I'm hoping. I'm praying. That's all we can do is pray, 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 pray. Complaining really doesn't get you anywhere. Pray. That's all I have to say is pray and vote. Please vote. Vote, 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 because all that matters. I know people say, I don't want to get into politics. And honestly, that's why we're where we are, because people don't want to get involved. All you have to do is vote. You don't have to campaign. You don't have to do what I'm doing. Just vote. Tell your friends to vote. I guess it's kind of campaigning, but it's that's your right. Why wouldn't you want to use your rights? You have a right to vote, to say what you want. That's our job, is to help get stuff done. Okay? So that's all I'm saying is pray, 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 vote, vote, vote. And things will start to happen for the better in this country. I know right now it looks scary and it looks crazy. And we're like, what's going to happen? How is this going to end? And again, we shouldn't be worried. We shouldn't live in fear, but we should be praying and know that God's got it. He's going to take care of us. I know we're afraid. Not me. I'm not afraid. Just saying, we in general, as a population, as a people, we're afraid. We're fearful. We're concerned. I am a little concerned. I'm not afraid and fearful, but I'm a little concerned about some things. But it's just, we got to pray. We got to just keep looking to God. Know God's in control. God's got our back. He's going to take care of us. And again, vote. Okay? That's what matters more than anything besides praying that you do for this country or in this country for your family, is voting. I know people don't realize how powerful their vote is, but it is. So anyway, my throat's pretty dry and it's pretty late and tomorrow's church and I have to cook. So I am going to get off here. I thank you so much for watching. Please like and share. If you like the content, if you think someone needs to hear it, please, tell them about me. I am on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Not Thursday. I keep saying Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday nights. Usually at 5. I was at a meeting today, so I didn't start till 6. It's usually about 5, and it's called Melissa Loves to Talk because I just talk about things, as you can see. Normally, I try to stick to the subject, but sometimes I go off onto whatever. So it could be about anything. I'll be honest. You never know what I'm going to talk about. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate everyone watching. And please, if you have comments, if you have anything that you like, dislike, any thing that you can give me ideas. My friend gave me some ideas today. Please comment, message me. If you have my phone number, you can text me. I appreciate anything, any input you have. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed night and hope to see you tomorrow.